tables across pages. The table view, you couldn't filter it to shortlist for testing. You couldn't do any of those things anyway, but that's already too much news. Okay, fine. Then the other thing I wanted to share with you is that this is the GitHub repo, which Cailin mentioned earlier on. I created a QR code previously, but I didn't quite realize that that was a trial QR code and you needed to pay for it if too many people clicked on it and whatever. So I've abandoned that. Okay. Cailin's one is the new one, okay? And so that's good, and it will take you here, all right? Very cool. So we've been using it since November last year, and I would suggest if you just click here and click follow, so that when new content is published, you will be notified, and I think that's useful. Normally, it's within a few days of the event, but it's nice to have the little follow icon on there. Okay, so we've done that. 10 years. Okay, and the last thing is, so the Microsoft Community website, which is where Microsoft maintains all of the different communities, they are making changes there. They announced it a little while ago, but specifically last week. What they're saying is they want to use the community as a way to discover user groups, but they don't want the Microsoft Community platform to be used to advertise and communicate with members about the events. It wasn't really a wonderful experience anyway. So what we've got on our Power BI Fabric Joburg group is a link to our meetup group. And so as a result, I just would ask anyone to be part of the meetup group. So I will also put the link in the chat for that as well. And so that's where we will communicate reminders and new event and whatever. But when people are new and they want to find a user group, most people will probably go to the Microsoft Community, look there, and then that will filter through to our meetup site. All right, that's my whole story. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Sten. We'll get those links in the chat. I'll also just make sure I'll remind Sten a bit later. Hi, welcome. So I'll hand over now for the BI news to Nolo.
Oh, please just...
No worries. We'll give you a few seconds.
You start.
No problem. What I'll do is I'll just start with the Fabric news first, and then we'll come back to the BI news. Awesome. Okay, cool.
Space bar.
Here we go. Sorry, it's the space bar. Let's see. Okay, all good. Sorry about that. Teams has got a weird thing doing that now, but anyway. All right, cool. So I've got some two main exciting features for Fabric today. Only two of them because I actually want to go through them in a bit more detail than the normal general updates. But these are now generally available features for Fabric, and they were actually released this month. So the first one is the degrees of parallelism. Feedback is now generally available in SQL database in Fabric. And why I actually wanted to mention this one specifically is it's really awesome how it basically helps create this feedback cycle that improves your query performance. So it basically identifies parallelism inefficiencies for repeating queries based on elapsed time and how long those queries wait. So it's really cool. There's like a little diagram here on the side, and it's basically the process in which this feedback loop executes. So it will have the initial query execution with the default DOP, and then it will do some kind of performance monitoring using CPU, elapsed time, various other database metrics and performance metrics. And then it does an adjustment if needed. And then it will validate and persist that, and then it continues that feedback cycle and it watches what you do. So it's really beneficial, specifically for reporting and analytical queries. And that's why I wanted to mention it here, because a lot of us work with reporting. So it's really, really beneficial if you have large queries that might be degrading over time, or queries that handle a lot of data as well. This is also super beneficial. So conversely, OLTP-centric queries that are executed in parallel could experience performance issues when the time spent coordinating all the threads outweighs the advantages of the parallel plan. So this is really helpful if you're dealing with SQL databases in Fabric. I actually have a little tutorial link here, just for interest of time. I'm not going to go through the whole tutorial, but if it's something that interests you, it's a really nice tutorial. It actually has broken down step by step with some queries, and it shows you how it optimizes them. So I would recommend, if you're interested, just to upskill as well. It's quite a nice one to have a look at. And then the second one is mirroring Azure Databricks Unity Catalog. This is the other one that's become generally available in July 2025. So many organizations today register their data in Unity Catalog within the Azure Databricks. And a mirrored Unity Catalog in Fabric now enables customers to read data managed by Unity Catalog from Fabric workloads. So why this is really nice is it allows for secure, high-performance integration that provides seamless access to Azure Databricks tables directly from Fabric. So it's really streamlining people who are utilizing both of these in conjunction. And when you use Fabric to read data that is registered in this catalog, there is no data movement or data replication. Only Azure Databricks catalog structure is mirrored to Fabric. So it's really, really helpful. It prevents shortcuts, and it just streamlines this whole process. So there's a tutorial here as well. I also have a little bit of a YouTube video. So in interest of time, we can watch it now. It's only 1 minute long. Otherwise, we can do it after the presentations at the end. But the link is there. It's just 1.5 minutes, and it basically just shows you how you can do this if you are working with something like this. So yeah, these were the main two features that were really, really cool from my side of things. I was thinking particularly because all of us here work with reporting and large data sets most of the time. So if you are working with Fabric and reporting, this is quite beneficial for you to know. But yeah, that's my update. So Nolo, I'll hand over to you for the Power BI news.
Just joining my screen. Just have to join.
What's your name? Sven. SVEN. Thanks.
So I'll be presenting the news and updates for July. Okay. Yes. So agenda. I'll be quick since we're running a bit out of time. So I'm gonna be talking on these 4 things. So expanded data sharing with Microsoft 365, field parameters, organizational themes, and Power BI enhanced reporting format update. Please just give me a second. Sorry.
I'm not showing my notes. Are you in full screen? Sorry. Yeah, just. Oh, okay. But then just make it go full screen. And make that very small, and then at least make it a bit smaller. Then you've got enough.
Oh, okay. Now you guys are seeing my notes.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, but there's gonna be a 365. There's a 365 update that will allow users to discover and access more of the data. Previously, only metadata like report names and creation dates were shared, and now richer metadata such as chart titles, dashboard descriptions, and last refresh dates will be included. This upgrade is aimed at ensuring that users find relevant reports through M365 Copilot and Office Search. Then with field parameters, they are now generally available, and they do allow users to dynamically switch between different measures or dimensions in a report, enabling more personalized analysis. Power BI will also has also improved how matrices behave when using fill parameters in the latest update. So previously, changing a fill parameter would collapse the matrix. Now the matrix becomes better retains its expanded or collapsed state, making reports more user-friendly, consistent during analysis. Then with organizational themes, this is very cool. It's going to ensure that there's consistent branding across all reports, whether they created manually or with Copilot. Admins will be able to upload, validate, and manage the themes using JSON themes, and they will also be the ones who allow tenant access and who can make changes to them. Once they are enabled in the settings, the themes will appear in the theme gallery, both in Power BI Desktop as well as Power BI Service. And then with the PBIR format has had an update, which is it's going to support Fabric deployment pipelines, enabling streamlined report deployment, and it will have compatibility with Save a Copy and report usage metrics in Power BI Service. It will now have a full integration with Power BI REST APIs, enhancing automation and development workflows. And beginning with SQL Server 2025, on-premise reporting services will be unified under the Power BI report server. And then there is the July update link as well as a link to the Power BI community. Thanks, guys.
Awesome. Well, that's so interesting. Actually, they're coming up with some fantastic stuff that's really beneficial and things that I think a lot of people who use Power BI frequently actually have been wanting for a long time. So it's really nice to see that coming through. Thank you so much, Nolo, for that. I think then if we're ready, Carike, if you're ready to kick us off with the main presentation, over to you.
Ready? I guess I need to join the Teams meeting quickly. Now I need to do all the mute thingies.
While Carike does that, just to mention, obviously there was quite a lot of AI news as well, Copilot AI news, and that's where a lot of the stuff's happening in the background. So, I mean, obviously everyone's very keen to start using Copilots, but let's be honest, I think the Copilot experience has been underwhelming, okay? And so what they need to do is they need to help developers train the models better. And so a lot of the features that have been coming out have been things like do questions and answers in advance, okay? Do synonyms, that's been around for a long time, in various things, and include these tables and exclude these tables, or these reports include and these reports exclude, so that the results can be better. Because sometimes you're going to have someone just trying out a report or a model, and it's not useful, but it gets in the way of the Copilot results. So now the tenant administrators can turn that off and do it. Yeah.
That's very cool.
You good?
Awesome. Can everybody online still hear me? Yes, great stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. There we go. That was some awesome news updates. Thank you so much, team. And good afternoon, everyone online and everyone here present. It's very cool for me to be at the very first in-person for me, Power BI UG. And this afternoon, we're going to do a little bit on Power Platform tips and tricks. Just shortly about me, I work for a company called iSolve Business Solution. I'm also a Microsoft MVP, and you can connect with me on LinkedIn. The QR code will take you to the LinkedIn profile, I hope. Awesome source. So just to get things started, let's just go. Just very shortly, for those of you who aren't aware or haven't been working on the Power Platform at all, or for those who the Power Platform is completely new, just a very high level scope of what the Power Platform looks like and all the tools that make part of the Power Platform. Obviously, most of you would be familiar with Power BI. And then we've got Power Apps, we've got Power Automate, we've got Power Pages, as well as Copilot Studio. Those are your main components that make up the Power Platform, and those are the main tools that you would use when playing around inside of the Power Platform. The ones particularly we'll be looking at this afternoon is Power Apps and Power Automate. I'm not going to touch Power Pages. That's like a whole session all on its own. Might be 2 days. And then obviously Copilot Studio, which is a fun tool to play with, and that also deserves its own day for a little bit of a, I've been saying we need a Copilot Studio in a day kind of effect, similar like we had with Power Apps and Power Automate some while ago. Also just a little bit on the level just below it. These are the components that you use inside of these tools. So obviously, as we've mentioned, Power Platform has a main set of tools. Then what we do is we use PowerFX as our coding language for Power Apps specifically. And then you might go, but Carike, they said it's a low-code platform. Yes, it is. But PowerFX is for when you need to get into those really complex formulas. It really helps your pro coders also to develop better apps. The main data source used inside of Power Apps, Power Automate, and Power Pages is obviously Dataverse. So that's kind of the way everything goes when it comes to Power Apps or Power Platform in general. With Power Pages specifically, you cannot use any other data source than Dataverse, unfortunately. Then we have something that we call connectors. So think of this, for those who are in the development space, think of this as your APIs. It allows you to connect to separate tools or different tools, and these connectors in the back end really are just APIs exposing the data to your tools that you're using either within Power Apps, Power Automate, Power Pages, and even Copilot Studio. And then we've got a nice little low-code add-on which is called AI Builder, also a very fun tool which you can use to it's got a section or a bunch of pre-built models. So for those who wants to play a little bit with maybe getting information from quotations or maybe invoices, AI Builder is there ready to use and extract that information either from PDFs or images. And there's so much more that you can do with AI Builder. And then lastly, very similar to how you would do or build any custom solution where you've got your development, UAT, and prod. We call it managed environments inside the Power Platform. You could also set that up, which creates a nice pipeline when you are deploying your applications from a dev, UAT, and production. But we're not going to go into all of that. And then obviously, I think we are so tired of hearing this, but Copilot sits on top of everything, and we've got agents. I think if the Matrix saw us now, they'd be like, gee whiskers. How really do you want to go? How do you want to go in this agents thing? So, but agents are absolutely amazing. So that's it just on the Power Platform for those who did not know. Then what I'm going to do is we're going to jump right into it, and then I'm just going to cover a few quick basics. So for some of you, this might be familiar, but for those on the call, just out of interest, is there anyone on the call or here in person who has never played with the Power Platform before?
Don't be shy.
Yeah. There are a few hands going up.
Oh, is it? Okay, great. Now then, this is perfect. Then I'm glad I put in the quick basics. So for those who have played with it, this might feel a little bit familiar, which is great. And for those who've never played with the Power Platform before, be prepared to get your mind blown. Let me quickly go to the space where I want to be. Okie dokie. So for those who know me, knows I like to get into demos straight off the bat. So for those who have never played with the Power Platform before, to start off with, you would navigate to make.powerapps.com. We'll share some of the links afterwards, but that's the fastest way to get to the Power Platform environment. And this will be the landing screen that you get to. From here, you'll get, if this is enabled in your environment, you'll get the Let's Make a Plan. I don't know how many of you have played with this. This is amazing. I was blown away by what you can do with Let's Make a Plan. It doesn't work 100%, but it's exciting what it does.
So you need a Copilot license?
Not a Copilot license, but definitely you need to be on the rollout for these new preview features. So that's what I'm saying. Some people, when they open this, might not see it. I've had it with some of the students that I've done a session with. They couldn't see this, but I could. So it all depends on what's enabled in your environment and whatnot. But this could be an admin setting just so you are included in the preview release of certain. Was that a question? No? Okay, cool. So we'll dive a little bit into this at a little later stage. But just some basics. Once you get here, there's some obvious places where you can go to get yourself started. The first place to start is clicking on the Create button on the left. So from here, there's various ways that you can start creating your apps. They've made it very simple for you to start. You can either start with Copilot. You don't need a Copilot license to do that. This is a Copilot that comes with the Power Platform. Yes?
No, there was a message that popped up.
Oh, it's okay. I'm monitoring the chat.
You're monitoring.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. So you can use Copilot in here. Obviously, this is a Copilot chat. It is available with the free version of Power Platform, but if you've got premium, there's obviously some more enhanced features that you get with it. You can also start with data. So starting with data means either Dataverse or Excel or SharePoint. It all depends on where you start. You can even start with a page design. So for those of you who use Figma to design like a layout, you can use that. And then you can start with a blank canvas. So that means that it's completely blank. You decide what the components need to look like. And then also just a little bit of add-ons that you can add to these apps. There's agents, flows, the AI hub, which is the AI builder that I spoke about. Agents will obviously link to Copilot Studio. And then you can also start with websites, which will obviously link to Power Pages. We've tried out agents. So just for those who wants to go and play with this, if you want to use this component, it only works if your environment, and this is what's the environment, I'll go a little bit into that, it has to be set to the US at this stage, unfortunately. So it hasn't rolled out to the SA environment yet, but it's very cool once you get to see that working. So it's literally creating an agent for your Power app specifically. It's very similar. I don't know if those here or those on call have seen or played with SharePoint agents. Okay, and that's what I'm saying. There's just agents everywhere. So SharePoint agents is also very specific to SharePoint. It is agents, but in a SharePoint environment, you can ask them queries around the document libraries and documents that sit in there. It even goes and scans PDF. So if you're looking for a particular invoice, you can actually use that SharePoint agent to find that invoice. Very, very cool tool. So when you get a chance, play with that, but this is Power Platform. So enough about SharePoint. So obviously this agent will do the same thing. So if you've got an application and it understands the data sources that you're using, whether it be Excel, SharePoint, or Dataverse, you can query or use this agent inside of your app to query that data and give you a summary of that data. Okay. And then lastly, for those that are beginners, you can also get or started from templates, so app templates. I've noticed that this has gotten fewer, but also using these templates really uses the older design of Power Apps. So it's ugly, if I may say that. Sorry, Microsoft. So the best place for me, where I always start, is to start with data, right? So especially if you are completely new to the Power Platform, what I love about this is, like I've mentioned before, you can describe the data for your app. Just a note, when using the Copilot for just starting with this, it'll by default create Dataverse tables. So something that I forgot to mention while I was busy presenting, the connectors that I spoke about. You get free connectors, but then you also get premium connectors. With the premium connectors, you obviously have to have a Power Apps for app license or a Power Apps for user license in order to get those connectors using. In a developer environment, you can use them on a trial, but eventually you cannot use that in production without having a license assigned to it. So if you were using the Copilot to help you assist or assist you to create an application, it's going to by default create the Dataverse, which is a premium connector. So it's going to create Dataverse tables. So if you don't want to do that, and let's say we want to use SharePoint or Excel, because those are free connectors that you get with your Microsoft 365 license, you would choose to connect to external data. So as you can see here, we've got an option to either connect to SharePoint or Excel, also SQL. Once again, SQL is a premium connector. So if we are connecting our data to SQL, it's a premium connector for one. For two, what you would need is an on-premise gateway to connect that data to SQL. Okay, if it is sitting in Azure, obviously you would just need to have the Azure details to create that connection. So we're going to choose from Excel, just because I've got a little Excel spreadsheet prepared, and hopefully it's behaving, because earlier it wasn't. But I just want to show you, if you choose from Excel, please. Luckily, I've pre-built the app, because I know this does this. I will tell you, honestly, Power Apps can test your patience. So it'll
that would never have happened in Power BI. No, I'm kidding. We all know it tests our patience a lot.
Those who've been around for the 10 years would know, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so it oftentimes can give you a little bit of grey hair. That's why I'm grey and I'm still young. But it is really a powerful tool. So I'm just going to refresh that, and while that is busy loading, I'm going to show you the app that it did create with the SharePoint data that I've chosen of the Excel data. So just something that I also want to mention is if you do decide to use an Excel spreadsheet to bring in or create an app, it has to be tabled, right? So it has to be formatted as a table, and it has to be only one sheet. It doesn't do multiple sheets in an Excel. And also it has to be uploaded into OneDrive. So it doesn't just upload, you have to upload it to OneDrive, and then you can create an app. But by default, once you've got that sheet, you've got it as a table, this is what it comes up with. So I've created, let me just show you the Excel quickly. Yes. That's what I'm saying. So I've just created a simple sheet. It was all about property, and these are the fields that we have. So I've made this into a table, very simple data, and because I've used that, this is the app that it's created. So you can see that the records that I have has been added, and then it's also gone ahead and created the fields based on the columns that I have in the spreadsheet. And without writing a single line of code, I've got a fully functional app where I can add, edit, and delete, right? And from here on out, so this is obviously just creating the layout of the app for you. But from here on out, you can just build on top of this and maybe take this information from the Excel spreadsheet and save it to another data source, whether that be SQL, Dataverse, or a SharePoint, right? But what I also love about doing it this way, especially for those beginning to use Power Platform, is you get to see how they put things together, especially from a container perspective, how they would how they program the buttons. So if this is completely new, you can see how they get from one point to the other point. Also, when we click on new, so let's put this in play mode. So if I click on new, you would see that it updated the pencil and the delete to a check mark and an X. And then you can also see how it writes this information back to whatever resource it does, right? And then also, some things that's important to note is whenever you have a form, it's always important to say what the data source is. In this case, it's table 1. You can see the item, where it's getting the item from, which is your records gallery. Also, if you hover over it and it's referring to a component on the screen, it will always highlight that component. So as you can see, this is the component that it's referring to. So really out of the box, very, very simple. It can become very complex, but just if you want looking for something to just start playing with the Power Platform, this is specifically Power Apps. That's the best way to start, is to start with existing data. Any questions on this before I move on?
I just want to make a comment that all the stuff on the left and all the coding about buttons and whatever, I find that hectic here. I can do DAX, but I can't do that stuff.
It is hectic, and I agree with you, Sven. I know a lot of people is like, yes, it's low code and it's meant to be easy for people in finance and HR, but there is a bit of a learning curve, right? It's not, they compare it to Excel, but it's not as intuitive as Excel. I understand why people stick to the Excel, but just to explain a little bit to maybe make it simpler for those that are on the call as well, is on the left-hand side, you will always have your list of components. So you'll see this or consider this as your list of components. So if I click on main screen, this means this is the screen that I'm on. And then you can start drilling into what it is. So if you click on screen container, it will highlight that. If you click on this one, it will highlight the top bar. If you click on the one just below it, you'll see that this is the table name label. So on the left-hand side, you'll always have your components list. It's always, so a bunch of us developers are lazy renamers, so we just keep it as component 1 or component 3, and that becomes difficult the more your components grow. And just another tip that I want to say is, some people, because in our development we always build everything into one solution, Power Apps is not meant to be that. The more complicated or more components you load onto any Power App, the more slower it's going to get. Performance-wise, it's going to really deteriorate. So something that I've seen which people suggest is creating a main app and actually linking that to some sub-apps, because that helps for performance, right? And also, when it comes to maintaining these components, it's just easier, because the more complex this hierarchy gets on the left, the slower, once again, like I say, the app becomes. I think for one app that I've built, just renaming a label it completely hangs the system because it's just been overloaded with components on this app. So I would suggest when you build your app, keep it as simple. Even if you have to, like if a screen is really complex, build that one screen and make buttons go to another app, which is like a sub app. That's just a recommendation. Because I think I've heard that there is a limit actually on the amount of components that you can have in a Power App. That I didn't know before, I've only recently learned about that. So from best practices perspective, it's always good to keep your apps simple with not a lot of components on them. Because as you can see, I mean, this is just a simple screen, but these are all the components that's just on one screen.
But that's what I'm talking about, like seriously. And then you look at that, and then some of those have got code behind it.
Exactly.
And the code doesn't make any sense to me. I could never write it. I could never do that.
Yeah. So there's actually, I think if I just right-click this, I just want to see, you can actually view your app. For those of us who like code, this is a full code view of this whole application so far. So for those of us who like some YAML, there you go. So this is a nice view actually if you wanted to copy and paste some of the components into another application. It's just quick and easy to copy and paste that. But I derail from my points. This is meant to be a low-code thing. Also, and like I've mentioned, this is obviously very simple in its design, but it can become very complex. So people start obviously doing calculations, especially like I've built an application where you actually pay crew and calculates their pay based on a voyage. So you can build like really nice functionality in here, very much similar to how you would in Excel. So those formulas, they do work in here. And you can even add DAX into Power Apps as well. But once again, adding all of those things, it affects your performance. So that's just a little bit of a basic coming into a Power App. I'm happy to, like, if there's a need, or you can let me know in the comments if you want a deep dive into really going into the nitty-gritty of a beginner cycle of how to build an app, how to put everything together. Happy to cover that. But I just want to go through some of the tips and tricks that's still left. So obviously we've created this app. Let's see if this one has loaded. It didn't. That's fine. So as I've mentioned, you would come to this little create button, and this is where you would start. So just jumping over to plans, and let me go back to my presentation deck quickly. Because this is just, I'm going to do the Power App section first, and then I'll jump into the Power Automate just so that I don't jump too much. So the first tip is obviously the Plan Designer. I want to show you what it does, what it creates. It's still wonky, so I'll show you where the wonky parts are as well, and I'm hoping that they fix that soon. And then what I'll do is, after this session, I'll share my presentation deck as well, because in here I've put down the steps that you can follow so that you can also do it yourself. Okay, so let's quickly go back to our presentation mode. Post this thing. We've got this. We're professionals. So if you have plans activated at this stage, it will be visible on the left-hand side. So you can click on plans. Obviously, if you want to create a new plan, you can click on create plan. I've already started one, once again, just for the sake of the demo. So I've called it property leasing. So it was really as simple as typing a sentence. So if I just quickly go back to the home screen, it was as simple as typing a sentence. I actually took this pre-prompt here, which says my team needs a solution for tracking projects across the company. And I literally took that away and said for property buying and renting. That's all I said, right? And then it went ahead and created this plan for me. And this is where my mind was blown. So what a plan is, it's got nothing to do with Microsoft Planner or Microsoft Project Plan. It's absolutely not that. What this does, what this plan does, is it looks at the prompt that you are asking for, and it actually tries and creates a complete solution for you regarding that which you're asking. So based on me saying I want property leasing and buying, it went ahead and created a property leasing and buying tracker plan. So it gave me a business problem. So this is the sentence that I've typed in. The rest, it was all generated by Copilot or just planning thing, which is absolutely insane. So it told me the purpose of the plan. It gave me some user requirements, right? It told me that I need a leasing agent and a property buyer. That's kind of the roles that it identified, a sales manager. Then it pulled out a user process. It was like, based on the prompt that you said, this is what we think the user process should be. So you should be able to manage your property leasing and buying activities and also oversee and optimize your leasing and buying operations. I was like, man, this thing is insane.
How long has it been around? You said it's relatively new. Yeah.
It's fairly new, but it's been around, I think, for at least 3 or 4 months now.
Okay.
Yeah. So it should be generally available soon. I haven't seen any announcement that it is generally available yet. But yeah, it's really cool. So, and then it created the data model for me. So I was like, okay, based on what you've told me, these are the tables that I think you would need. As a property table, a lease application table, some purchase interest, client, agent, sales team, deal. It did all of this on its own. And then it went further and told me that, okay, so based on what you said, I'm going to think that you're going to need a lease and buying hub, which it went and created a model-driven app for me. And then also a Canvas app for the buyer property explorer. Then it suggested a lease renewal reminder. That's a flow. This is where it gets wonky. And then it also suggested creating a leasing buying analytics report. So it just put the whole suite together. So as I've mentioned, Power Platform, it really touches on everything. So initially when I started, it obviously gives this as a suggestion, and then it asks you, do you want to keep this? And I was like, well, absolutely, right? So looking at this, obviously this gives the description of what it's going to do for me. But this is the process that it went through in creating. So I'm going to click on View Process. This is the whole thing that it created for me. So start the process, the property leasing and buying management. Then it said you need a leasing agent. It's the roles, right? It's building this process because it's putting down what it thinks your process should look like. It's really laying out a plan that just from one sentence. So it's saying a leasing agent would need to add new property for the lease. A property buyer would browse the available properties for purchases. And then, I mean, this you could use if you're thinking about documentation, putting together a BRS or an FRS. It's already done that for you. It's given you the whole process. You can just amend it, and then you can always add to it, right? So if I hover over here, it gives you a little bit about what it is. Come on, give me the little hand. Anyways, so we saw it. The recording's gone. So it takes you through this whole process, right? So does the buyer want to lease or purchase? So if they lease, this is the process. If they purchase, that is the process. So it took me through this whole process. So obviously some of these things are showing a little bit of purple. You can see where it's using the app, the model-driven app, where it's using the Canvas app, and where it's using a flow, right? So where it's expecting to use the flow. So it's insane. When I saw this, I was like, oh my word. So obviously, initially when I just created this plan, these weren't purple. They're purple now because I went and clicked on the little plus. So if I hover over this workflow, you'll see that there's a little plus here. That's to create it. So by default, it just suggests that this is what I suggest you create. And then you can go further and say, yes, actually go ahead and create this so that you can use this. So it's created the model-driven app for me because I said, yes, please go and create it. The same with the Buyer Property Explorer. So from an app perspective, it created it fine. From this lease renewal reminder side of things, it didn't work great. So it goes and creates the workflow, but what it does is it doesn't populate it with the data. So if you don't necessarily understand the process, that's going to be hard. Right? It gives you the steps, but it doesn't populate the data, so you're not really sure what it wants you to do. But from there, once again, you can build on. If you kind of have an idea of what you want your flow to do, you can build onto this. So from a development aspect, this is really where low-code, no-code really adds value, because now you've developed a full-blown app, like a full-blown process, actually, in a matter of minutes. And then from there, because these apps are pre-built, you can build on top of it. So it really is super fast to do. I would suggest everyone to go and play with it. Once again, a little bit of a caveat for me is it's great that it goes and creates these tables, but because once again it's Dataverse, you have to take note of what the names are of these tables. So with me, for best practice, whenever I create database or Dataverse tables, I always put like a little abbreviation in front of it so that I know if this is an e-logbook, for instance, or this is a property management, I would kind of put an abbreviation before it so that I know when I'm looking for the tables, these are my tables. Okay. So that's a very cool tool. I would encourage everyone to go and play with that one. I just want to see what else is there. Okay, so enhanced component properties.
When do you think they can improve the tool?
When do I think they're going to improve the tool?
What aspects of the tool can still be improved? Because it's still in pilot phase.
It's still in pilot phase, yeah. So, I mean, they can definitely improve on the workflow creation side of things. Like I said, when I went and clicked on create the workflow, it's great that it gives the steps, but it's not populating like where it's Dataverse steps. For instance, it's not populating the tables per my process. So I wouldn't know. So I understand that it says lease renewal reminders, but when I open the flow with the steps and it not populating the tables, it's like, what am I looking for? Especially someone who's new and doesn't understand the process. But I think they can definitely improve on the workflow creation side of things. And then maybe like naming conventions, you know, if they could ask you while they're creating the plan, we're planning to create these tables. Do you want us to use the default publisher or do you want to use your own publisher, right? To help you like navigate that process so that you can rename your stuff early. Because once again, the table is created, you can't change those kind of properties. It's set in stone.
Especially in big environments.
Exactly. But that's I mean, for what it's doing already, it's just insane. So I think if it improves anything, it's tiny things, little aesthetics. Cool. So let's quickly jump into the next one, which is talking about enhanced components. And Tato actually did a presentation on some custom components at BIUG a while ago. So custom components are really cool. I don't know if anyone in the room or on the call have heard of custom components. Nope. So this is a nice and quick way. Let's say you want to do or standardize, maybe in design, maybe a certain control. You want to standardize the design of that, and you want to reuse that control. That's when you would create a custom component. So I've done a very simple one. So how you would navigate to that is if you are in the Power Apps Designer, this can be on any app. You would see, obviously if on screens, it will show the list of screens, but if you click on components on the right-hand side, you would be able to add a new component. So here you can define what that component looks like. On this component, I've just added a label. So if you think of something like building an application and you want consistency over all of your screens, let's say it's got a menu, it's got a footer, the layout, you want a consistency in that layout. You would build it as a custom component because that's something that you can reuse. What's also nice about a custom component is if I click on the custom component itself, I can go and add properties. So I can set custom properties for this thing. So besides length and width, and if there's other properties like you can call it corporate identity or theme, company theme. This is where you would set those properties. And then if we click on a new custom property, you would obviously give it a display name, a name, and then you can choose what this property is about. Is it a data property, so something that can contain data? Is it a function? Is it an event, so something that has on click or on select kind of thing? Or is it an action? Okay. And then obviously based on what you choose here, you can put the property definition inside of here. So whether it's an input or an output, and what type it is, whether it's a text, a number, a Boolean. So you can really customize what your standard should look like for your app. And once you've created this component, so I've just left it as component 1, because yes, I'm bad at naming things. If you go back to any one of your screens, so if I click on screen 1, you would see that I've added this as a component. So how do you do it? You can click on the Insert tab. Because we've now got a custom component, you can search for your component, whatever you name it. Right? You can add it on the screen, and you would notice that the default text for that component is put text here because I've got a label on that one. And I've made this one I've made screen 1. So the other one, I'll change this text. So what I've done is I've created a custom property on this component, just jumping back to that quickly. On this component, I've created a property called label text, and that's the default text. So when using this component, you would see that's the default text, the put text here. But if I wanted to update that, I can update it to whatever I want. So this is another component. And this is how you can keep the standard. So by standard, it's using that, but now it's given that or expose those properties to me or to whoever's using those components. So if you really want to think of if you want your people to design things in a certain way and make all your apps look and feel the same within the company, you would use custom components for that. The logo should always be in the same place. Your menu should always be in the same place. This is how you would use those custom components. Okay.
Quite nice for reusability as well.
Absolutely.
It's a template for.
It's a template, exactly. It's building a template, but it's nice because it becomes a company standard. So anyone using, building a new app, they've got access to these components. Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, there's also the Figma integration that's supposed to be coming through, so you can design for your UX people that tend to design in Figma, you can bring that in
Yes.
as your global standard for each thing. So you wouldn't have to go and recreate this here, you just let them import there.
Yeah. So how you would do that is very similar to what I've shown earlier, is when you click on create, you can start with the page design. So if you've got your Figma standard, you would use this one here. Okay. So let's quickly jump back to the, what else can I show you from a Power Apps perspective? Obviously the left-hand navigation is just, you can go, if you're new, once again, you've got this Learn tab where you can learn a little bit more about the Power Apps plans we've dealt with. If you just click on apps, these are your apps that just sits loosely inside of Power Apps. It's not included in any solution. So once you click here, you'll just be able to edit it. But also what we try to do, and as best practice, we always try and build solutions, right? This just makes it easier when we go and export it. Let's say we've got a solution that's got an application, it's got some tables assigned to it as well as a workflow. Then you can package that all in a solution and import it maybe from a dev to a UAT to a prod instead of doing them one by one. Okay, that's that. And then tables is just, from the tables aspect, it's just your Dataverse tables. So just navigating these. And once again, you can start with a blank table. You can create a table using Excel or CSV, or you can create a table using a SharePoint list. Okay, but that's just with regards to tables. And then if any of you have admin access, you can access the Power Platform Admin Center from here. Once again, that will be a whole nother talk all on its own from an admin perspective. Okay, so once again for tip 2, I've given the steps on just how to create these enhanced components. It's good to play a little bit with it, see how you can use it. Let's go to tip 3, which is now getting into Power Automate. So if you, once again, if you have any questions on Power Apps, please feel free to reach out to me. Happy to answer any questions on around that. For now, we're going to jump to Power Automate. How am I doing for time, by the way?
About 5 minutes left.
Oh, wow. Woo. Woo, no pressure. Cool. So if you want to go to Power Automate, the easy way to get to it is make.powerautomate.com. I say easy way tongue-in-cheek, there's actually easier way. You can just click on this little toggle here at the top and then click on Power Automate. That's probably the easiest way to do that. Power Automate, very similar to Power Apps. You've got by default your screen that starts with Copilot, so you can create flows using Copilot and it will assist you with that. We've got some pre-prompts that you can use. And then on the left-hand side, we've got our navigation to either create, you can have access to some templates. Excuse me, the templates in Power Automate is a quite extensive list of templates. I would suggest anyone who's new to Power Automate to please go and play with these. You'll see, for instance, save an Outlook email, attachments to your OneDrive. So in other words, you can build rules against if someone emails me and it's got the word CV in it, please save that to my OneDrive. So it doesn't also save every email with all of the attachments. Then we've got maybe notify about rows in a SQL database. So whenever a new row gets added to a SQL database, please send me a notification. So you can even trigger a flow with a Power BI data-driven alert. I'm not going to go into that one because I think I might need to sign up for a trial on this account for Power BI. But as you can see, there's so many templates that you can use. Obviously, if you choose to use a template, let's choose this one. What it's going to do is it's going to tell you what components it's using for this workflow. So in this case, we're using an Outlook connector and we're using a OneDrive connector. So what it does is you'll see at the bottom, it's going to ask you to sign in because it wants to create that connection to these components. So if you're using a service account that doesn't have an Outlook license, it's not going to like this. Okay, because that's the connector that it's using to access this component. The same with OneDrive. But if you are assigned these licenses, you can just click on sign in. It does that quickly. Oh, wow. I don't want to do this now. I am signed in. What does it mean? Maybe I should just refresh. Let's see if it gives me any joy. Yes. No. Yes. No. No, it's not giving me any joy. That's fine. We'll pass that one for now. So if we go back home, what I wanted to show you, so the tip was using Copilot to help you create a flow. So we'll use one of the pre-prompts, which says every month copy all files from a OneDrive folder to another OneDrive folder. So now we've selected that pre-prompt, then it actually gives you a suggestion on the flow that it's going to create. So you can see the trigger is a recurrence flow. So you get 3 types of flows by default. You get an automated flow, you get a scheduled flow, and you get a instant flow. Yes. So with the automated flow, that's when you trigger it based off of an action happening. So either adding a new record to SharePoint, adding something new to Dataverse, or something has updated. Instant flow can be just someone clicking a button in a SharePoint list or in a Power BI report, or clicking a button in a Power App. Okay, and then the scheduled flow is very self-explanatory. Obviously, you set up the schedules to say run every Friday. I want this report to run, or get me a list of items added to something. That's pretty much a scheduled flow. Okay, and then obviously we do get Power Automate desktop flows as well, but that's once again like I would say a topic for a whole nother day. See, now it sees that I'm signed in. I don't understand this. Cool. So as you can see, based on the flow that I've asked for, it's going to connect to OneDrive for Business, because the flow or the sentence that we had there was please copy files from one OneDrive to another OneDrive. So we're going to click on Create Flow. So once again, very simple, very easy to get to. And then for those of you who are new to the Power Platform, I think the new designer would grow on you. It hasn't grown on me. I'm still very much using I'm not liking the new designer, but I'll use it for the sake of this demo.
That's such an interesting comment though, because like for us who use it every 6 or 12 months, like I tried it and it took me here, and so I just sort of made my way through this.
Yeah.
But if an expert who uses it all day, every day doesn't like it, okay.
I don't. I really don't. So whenever I open a flow, I first go like new designer off, because I wanted. So just to show you what the old design looks like, and I hope it switches now. And it always asks to send feedback, and I'm just like, I'm not interested. I just don't like it. This is what the old designer looks like. Yes, they are. All of them are listening. Hopefully that doesn't change my MVP status. I'm just saying. So this is the old designer, right? What I like about this is just the sequential flow it has, and it just makes sense from a usability perspective. Setting up these things is just so much more intuitive than it is on the new designer. I'm not saying the new designer is not. So like I said, for those first-time users, please get used to the new designer, because that's the one that's sticking. I'll keep the old designer until they say it's going to be deprecated. So obviously on a recurrence flow, because this is a schedule, you can set the interval to run every month. And then in the drop down, we've got month, week, day, hour, minute, up to the second. Please don't do every 1 second and leave the workflow on, because that can really become very annoying. I've had that, unfortunately. When you're busy testing, you set it to 1 second because you want to see the results, and then you leave it on. And then eventually you get to your mailbox and there's like 1,000 mails later. And you're like, oh gosh, I forgot to switch off a flow. So please don't keep it at 1 second. Then from here, you can obviously choose the folder of the OneDrive. You can choose the folder that you want to copy the files from. So let's use attachments just for this example. And then we've got a little bit of a for each. So I know for those who's using workflows for the first time, this might all look like gibberish. So just to give you a layout of a flow. So a flow always starts with a trigger. That's your first step. A trigger is what kicks off the initial flow, and that's why we said it can either be because something was updated, something was created, or it is a schedule, or it is an instant flow. So in other words, a button. Okay? So there'll always be a certain type of triggers. There's many triggers that you can choose from. Then once the first step is there, that's your trigger, that's kind of the thing that kicks off your flow, you can click on this little insert step here, where you can add an action or even a parallel branch, because you can run things in parallel. Okay, so if I were to add a parallel branch, it would just expand it so you can see that they're going to run sequentially or at the same time. And then when you do that, it's going to ask you what action do you want to perform, and this is where it gets really interesting. So there's so many connectors that you can connect to. There's so many things that you can do. Something that's important, so if I choose Dataverse, just to show you an example. So let's go Dataverse. Did I spell it right? Not even picking it up. Why? Anyways, that doesn't matter right now. So it will show you which connectors are premium connectors. That's literally the essence that I want to get to. If it's not a premium connector, it wouldn't have the premium word next to it, and that means you can use it without having a license. If it says premium, that means whoever you're using, the account that you're using to connect to this connector, that's the account that needs the license. So let's say this workflow gets triggered on a SharePoint list. There's various users that use the SharePoint list, but whoever you use as the connector, as long as they've got permissions to a premium license, the workflow would continue to work. Okay.
So just to say that again, whoever triggers who uses the connection is the one that needs the
license. So if I choose, let me just show you quickly. So if I go SharePoint, I know SharePoint is a free connector, but I just want to show you what I mean with the license. So if I choose SharePoint, let's say I use the get items. Okay. You'll see here that it says sign in to create a connection to SharePoint. That's that API call. It needs to create that connection. So the account that I'm using to set up this connection, if I'm using premium, that's the account that would need the license. That doesn't mean everyone needs it. Okay.
Person signed in. Yeah.
Person signed in. Yeah. Okay. So that's pretty much. And to check those connectors, you will click the little 3 dots, and you can see who the users are. So once again, my tip here is to use a service account. Make sure the service account is someone who's got a licensed Outlook, Teams, especially if you're building flows using that service account. And why I say a service account, Microsoft might not be happy with that, but for me, transferability is just the most important thing, because you get so many people that create their flows and then they leave.
Yeah.
And then everybody struggles to get access to this flow, right? So service account's the best because someone has got the credentials of that service account, and you can continue either updating or keep maintaining a workflow. The same with the Power Apps. It's always best to use it with just the initial start. Make sure the owner is a service account. You can give access to co-owners as people and have them develop so that you have a trace of audit trail, kind of per se, as to who made changes and who not. But I do believe that the owner of your flows and your app should be a service account. Okay. I know I'm running out of time. Very quickly. So yeah, it really is so simple to create a Power Automate flow. I've just used Copilot in this instance. Like I've mentioned, I'm not going to save this right now. There's templates that you can use and you can go and play with. Just something also that's really fun to play with is the process mining tool. So if you're a business or company that has very detailed processes and a lot of flows, this process mining tool shows you where the bottlenecks are in your process and how you can actually improve that. So that's actually a very cool tool to play with. And then the AI hub, which is one that I also love, is with the pre-built model. So I'm just going to go over that very quickly. Okay. We'll just create that database for now. Hopefully it doesn't take too long. I just want to see if I'm missing any of my tips while that's busy happening. So we did a Copilot generated flow. We saw that that was quite easy to do. This is a nice tip as well. So using environment variables for cleaner solutions. So this is quite important. Just as I come to a close. So what environment variables are is something that you can reuse, and it's something that you set outside of your flow or your Power App, right? This becomes helpful when you are navigating from a dev to a UAT to a prod, because the moment I move my solution from a development to a UAT or a prod, it actually updates the ID of the flow as well as the app. So if you're thinking of maybe sharing an ID with the user to say this is production, this is dev, this is UAT, especially if you, for instance, maybe doing deep linking in your flow, so that means providing a link to an application from a workflow, right? You want to set that as an environment variable so that you can just outside of the flow update that variable once, and it updates all your flows that depends on that environment variable. Okay. Else, if you do it inside of the flow or hard code that inside of your flow, you're going to have to update each and every single flow. And I mean, if you've got about 30 flows that's built into a solution, you have to update each and every single one. If you've got an environment variable, and this could be anything, I'm using the app link as an example, but this could be anything that you need to update, and it needs to update in all of the components that depends on this. And how do we do this? So inside of solutions, if you've now built a solution, I'm going to just quickly show you. Really created database, I've just created one. What is it saying? Because there's no CDS instance. Okay, fine. Let's not use the default environment. Let's use our developer environment. Hopefully this works. Yes? No? Yes. We learn a lot of things when you're using these solutions. I'm just going to go into the property leasing solution because it's already there. So I just want to show you how and where you would add these environment variables. So what you would do is you would click on New, and you would click on More, and this is where you would click or create an environment variable. So if you click on creating it, but you would obviously decide what it's called. If it's app URL or something to that effect, it could be maybe a company name or an organization, something that stays static throughout an application, but you don't want to go into each and every app, especially if you're doing the apps in a sub-app, something that depends on that variable that needs changing. You would rather create it outside, say what it is, and you'll say what the data type is. Okay, so that's something that's it's a nice quick win for updating things. And sorry, it's going to feel like I'm flying through my stuff now. I do apologize. Okay, the last one is Copilot Expression Builder. So you would have noticed inside of when you're building a flow, this is once again in the new designer, you've got Copilot to assist. So use Copilot there. If you're not if you maybe want to say, I want to split this string. What's the expression to split a string? You can use Copilot to assist you, and it will help you build that formula or expression. I've got some steps in here, so once again, I'll share the slides and you'll be able to go through that. And that was the last one.
But Copilot, is it free? Because, I mean, Power BI, there's Copilot everywhere, but it has to be backed by a Copilot capacity. So I'm just curious about this one.
Yeah, so this one is not, so the Copilot is there to assist you. This is free. So when you're using it inside of the Power Platform, inside of Power Automate, it is free to use. Where it's not free is when it comes to Copilot Studio, when you start building agents and those kind of things. But just a Copilot to assist you to build workflows or to assist you to build apps, that is free. Yeah.
And Rika, just another question regarding like the connectors in the flows that you build as well. I was building a Power App and a flow a few years ago for a client, and it required basically every single connector that we could get was premium. So I was wondering, like, has that changed much in your experience? Have you seen a lot more connectors becoming free, or are they still quite significantly on premium license?
They are still, yeah. I haven't, so there's this list that are free and they've remained free, but I haven't seen some of the premium connectors becoming free. No, I haven't seen that, unfortunately.
All right. Are there any questions in the room? Or anyone online?
I have a question for you and the connectors. So, my mind just started working once you said that. If your client was like an external client outside of your day job, how would you price for that? Because, and if you didn't scope for that in the beginning, how would you navigate something like that?
So from the context of where I come from, so I work for Intellect, and we are a software consulting firm to other clients. So we build proprietary software for other clients. So we have access to what they need, and we use their credentials to build what they need, and then we leave. Does that make sense? So yeah, but then you have to kind of lobby for it. So we have to come with, this is what you want to do. You need, so at the solution we were building, just to give you context, was to actually use a Power BI report and embed the app inside the report, and they could label certain entities or classify certain entities using this Power App embedded. But in order to do that, it needed to write that data back to a database, and that database was living. It was an AWS instance, right? An RDS AWS database. So it needed to insert into that specific database, and therefore it needed a premium connector to connect to that database. So it was very specific to the problem. But yeah, I don't know if that answered your question at all.
Yeah, I think also just to add to that, as a consultant, it is important to understand which are premium connectors, and then when you're doing your proposal, to upfront say, if you want to go this solution, right, because you're using AWS, you're going to have to pay a license. Maybe not 5 licenses for each user that's using the application, but at least 1 from a workflow perspective. If it was an app, obviously different story, and that's why the licensing game is such a hard game to play.
Nobody wants to talk about licensing.
No, I put the disclaimer out like that all the time.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I do. Before I start, I'm like, I'm not covering licensing, because Microsoft sometimes doesn't even understand their own licensing, unfortunately. I think it's because where it becomes complex is you've got your standard licensing, right? If you go to your website, this is what premium per app is, this is the premium per flow. And it breaks it down. It's got a nice PDF which breaks it down very nicely. But then you've got companies who's partnered with Microsoft, or they've got an agreement with Microsoft, and then they get discounts, or whatever their agreement with Microsoft is, and you as a consultant don't always know that. So it all depends on the agreement that the company that you're doing the solution for, what they have with Microsoft, and that will depend on what licensing they get and what it will cost. So costing that on a proposal becomes you always have to put it, you kind of have to put a disclaimer that at the time of costing, this was using the available resources. It could be different depending on your engagement with Microsoft.
Awesome. Any other questions in the room or online? Doesn't seem like there are any hands. Well, then I want to just give a big round of applause to Carike. Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you so much for actually returning. So for those of you who have been here a few months ago, Carike actually did another presentation on Power Apps, and we loved it so much we asked her to come back. So thank you for coming, and also coming in person. And thank you all for also attending for online and in person. I hope you found it informative. As mentioned, I actually will just reshare my screen. Just give me 1 second, just to our slides. So yeah, if you would like to provide some feedback for us, we would greatly appreciate it. We do want to improve every single event that we have, and we also want to give you topics and presentations that you need. So if there's something you really want to learn about, and we haven't covered it previously, or even if we have, please fill out the survey. We'd love to get your insights. We can then tailor the next sessions to the things that you need or really wanting to learn about. And then, as I mentioned, the GitHub repo is there, so we will upload all of the slides, both myself and Nolo's feedback on the BI news and the Fabric news will also go up there, and also Carike's slides. So all of that will be uploaded, and then the recording from today will also be on our YouTube channel as well. So that will come a bit later this week.
Maybe just a small unfortunate thing. The GitHub thing can only do JPEGs and stuff like that. So if there's a link in there, it's going to be an image. It's not going to be clickable, unfortunately.
Yeah. So, yeah, it is a bit.
Upload a PowerPoint presentation?
Well, I've chosen the free GitHub. I don't know if that makes any difference.
Yeah, I'm also on the free GitHub.
Really?
Yeah.
Because I tried everything. PowerPoint, PDF, you cannot do. You literally have to export each page of the PowerPoint into a separate image and upload the
Oh, wow.
images.
No, with the Copilot 0 to Hero series that we're running, if you don't know about it, please register. We
Pilot 0 to Hero.
0 to Hero, yeah. So we started with this. I think on the 15th of July. We're on the second session has already commenced, and there's about 8 still remaining, where you get to learn all about Copilot. I'll send you the deets.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
Because actually in the GitHub thing, not only do we have the slides, but there's also a section on links. So any links that we used in the session, they go in there.
So if I quickly go to the GitHub, just to show you, I'm not showing my screen right now, but there I've got PDFs uploaded there as well as the PPTs. So I'll show you how to
I need to plug in and see what you're doing there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Awesome.
Very cool.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, everybody. And for those of you who are in office, we do have some pizzas outside, so please come join us for some pizzas and a cool drink. But otherwise, we'll see you all online at the next event. It is it's the last Thursday of the month, and it will be online. So it won't be a hybrid in-person event. It will be only online, and then we will be doing our in-person event again in September. Awesome. Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful day.
Awesome sauce.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for sponsoring the pizzas.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Cailin, for running the meeting.
Always a pleasure.
For hosting us here in the room.
Always a pleasure. All right.